The beginning of the 20th century marked a period of transformations and challenges for the United States, culminating in the Prohibition era. This was a time characterized by the enactment of the 18th Amendment to the United States Constitution in 1920, which prohibited the production, distribution, and sale of alcoholic beverages. This decision aimed to reduce the ills associated with excessive alcohol consumption, such as domestic violence and social instability. However, what followed was an unexpected phenomenon. Prohibition failed to curb the demand for alcohol. Instead, it gave rise to a flourishing of illegal activity, and it was in this context that one of the most emblematic and feared figures in American criminal history emerged, Al Capone. Born on January 17, 1899, in a poor neighborhood in Brooklyn, New York, Capone grew up amidst adversity and scarcity. From an early age, he showed a peculiar aptitude for the world of crime. By the age of 18, he was already involved in illegal activities and quickly became an active member of a local gang. The definitive change occurred when Capone established himself in Chicago, a city that would become the epicenter of his criminal operations. It was there that he immersed himself in the underground alcohol trade, openly defying the law. In no time, he emerged as one of the most influential leaders in the city, solidifying his authority in a territory where the law was often ignored or circumvented. Capone controlled a vast network of speakeasies, illegal distilleries, and smuggling operations. His empire was synonymous with brutality and cunning, and he did not hesitate to employ violence to maintain his dominance in the criminal underworld. His sardonic smile and penetrating gaze were feared by those who dared to challenge him, and he quickly became a figure that inspired both respect and fear, both in the criminal community and in society at large. Capone's meteoric rise was a direct consequence of the power vacuum created by alcohol prohibition. He knew how to capitalize on this chaotic scenario, transforming himself into one of the most prominent and influential criminals of the time. His story is a dark testament to the impact that prohibition had on social dynamics and the rise of figures who openly defied the law, leaving a legacy that echoes to this day. The hunt begins. As Al Capone consolidated his criminal empire in Chicago, federal authorities began to realize the urgency of containing his influence and disrupting his illegal activities. The city was engulfed in an atmosphere of corruption and fear, where the law often seemed powerless against the powerful gangster. Capone had a network of contacts and bribes that reached even the highest levels of local government, making him an almost untouchable figure. It was in this scenario that federal agent Elliot Ness emerged as a ray of hope for law enforcement. Ness led a group of determined agents known as the Untouchables. They earned this nickname because they were believed to be uncorruptible, immune to the bribes and intimidations that had paralyzed many others within Chicago's police and judicial institutions. The Untouchables were men of principles, dedicated to restoring order and justice in a city that had been overtaken by organized crime chaos. They faced a formidable enemy in Al Capone, whose power and influence spread throughout the city. Capone had a network of scouts and informants, making it extremely difficult for the Untouchables to get close to him. The battle that unfolded between Capone and the Untouchables was a true clash of wills. Spectacular raids were orchestrated, surprising Capone's illegal operations and confiscating large quantities of illegal alcohol. Violent shootouts became frequent on the streets of Chicago, as agents faced off against Capone's henchmen in tense and dangerous confrontations. Furthermore, high-speed chases became a distinctive feature of this war between crime and law. The Untouchables, determined to capture Capone, were willing to risk everything to see the gangster behind bars. The media and the public followed every development with fascination and horror, witnessing the epic confrontation unfolding on the streets of a besieged Chicago. This saga was not just a physical battle, but also a test of psychological endurance for both sides. Capone, accustomed to being the ultimate predator, now found himself pursued and cornered. On the other hand, the Untouchables faced constant threats, knowing they were dealing with a relentless and cunning adversary. The fight against Al Capone and his criminal influence became one of the most emblematic stories of law enforcement struggle against organized crime in the United States. It personifies the tenacity and determination of individuals who refuse to be corrupted by power and money and are willing to risk everything in the name of justice and social order. The story of the Untouchables and their pursuit of Capone remains an eternal reminder of the power of duty and righteousness in the face of adversity. The end of an era. The year 1931 marked a crucial point in Al Capone's saga and the Prohibition era. After years of intense pursuit, Al Capone finally faced justice. However, it was not for his most violent and bloody crimes, but for tax evasion. This verdict, although not directly related to the criminal activities that made Capone a feared name, symbolized the weakening of the impunity he had enjoyed for so long. Capone's conviction was a significant victory for the authorities, but also a revelation about the role of the legal system in the pursuit of justice. It demonstrated that, even when direct evidence of more serious crimes was difficult to obtain, the enforcement of tax laws could serve as a powerful tool to dismantle crime empires. The 11-year prison sentence was a devastating blow to Capone, who now faced a very different fate from what he had known during his years of dominance in Chicago. The man who had once ruled the city with an iron fist was now confined to a cell, confronting the reality of his fall from power. As Capone served his sentence in prison, his criminal empire began to crumble. Opportunistic rivals seized the chance to take control of his operations, and Capone's influence gradually diminished. The city of Chicago and the world watched the rise and fall of one of the most notorious criminals in history, witnessing the end of an era marked by impunity and open defiance of the law. The hunt for Al Capone and the Prohibition era as a whole are remembered as a dark and thrilling chapter in the history of the United States. The saga of Capone and the Untouchables continues to fascinate and inspire works of fiction and nonfiction, reminding us of the ongoing battle between law and crime in the pursuit of justice. It serves as a poignant reminder of the complexities and contradictions of human society, where power and corruption often intertwine, but also where the quest for justice and social order never ceases.